Okay, next item is the demographic advisory panels, and it's welcome to all of you. I don't know how you're going to get around the table. Just come forward, please. The panels have made a big impact on the long-term plan. You haven't gone unnoticed. Make sure Bazza gets to the front and the middle. Okay. I also spent time on Tuesday with the Small Business Advisory Panel, which Councillor Turner is doing an excellent job of chairing. It took a bit while getting underway, but they've got a lot to say and a lot to add to the system as well. Councillor Ferry, would you like to say something to introduce this as the lead councillor for the panels? And thank you for your work as well.
Kia ora. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Really just, I think we're all looking forward to this. And the last, no pressure, but the last interaction we had in this room was really positive and showed the value that the panels bring and also the value that they are held in by councillors in terms of informing our decision making. And so really looking forward to this conversation. I want to acknowledge the many staff who support the panels as well, in particular Victoria, but there's also a number of staff who do it above and beyond their normal jobs as well, which is really great and helps to add value through the organisation too. The panel members themselves are, I probably don't need to remind you, but I'm going to anyway, just the most amazing group of people who bring their lived experience, their connections and knowledge, which is very deep, to our stuff, which we can't get any other way. So I really want to acknowledge them and looking forward to hearing what they have to say without taking up any more of their time. And I think they'll explain their format to you. But I did just want to flag to councillors, a number of you are liaison councillors already and go along to panels, which is fantastic, and thank you for that. But if there is a panel that you want to come along and observe or interact with, then let us know. That can totally happen. We already have a couple of panels that we've had other governing body members rock up to and listen to, which has been great. So kia ora, looking forward to this item. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Good morning all, it's Mayor Brownie, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. It's a real privilege to be here. How we intend to handle it is Senate and I are going to set the scene, and then each council, each advisory panel will give some presentation of what they have achieved over this time. And also Phil, hi mate. So here we go. We believe that we've been a very successful collective of advisory panel members. And in fact, from what we've heard from around the country, we were one of the most successful panels, collective of panels that exist. And we believe that's because we work from a level of maturity, that we've been able to work together and understand that a lot of the commonality that we have fits right across all panels. It may be different in how we actually do the work, but we all have the same commonality, and we draw strength from actually being a collective and a group that can actually talk together and not try and talk over one another, that we all have equal say on the committee. The other thing that's been very useful for us is the fact that we feel supported by the council staff and also by the council. I just want to put one thing that we dealt with was the Central Rail link, since it's a sense of pain for everybody. They tried to put in stations that didn't fit with the accessibility of other stations, and we argued with them and they basically fobbed us off. So I texted the mayor, and within a week or two they'd changed their tune and are now following the pattern for the rest of the train stations. So for people with disabilities, that's a real plus. So thank you for that. I've got to open my phone. Our shared understanding is formed a bridge for us that we are able to holistically look at any issues, and we pride ourselves on coming up with solutions and not just putting the problems ahead and not just moaning about things, but actually being able to provide solutions for the staff. And we have, over the period of time, had a lot of the council groups come to us and talk to us, and we've been able to say the problem and then give them some examples of how that could be fixed. And one of the things that we've done recently is that with the CEO, he does a cadetship, and now he's looking at disabled people being part of that cadetship. Not that they weren't, but we're going to focus on getting some disabled people involved in that process. So he's given me a date and promised that that we will look at that and other issues for the council. So now it's in writing, Phil. As a result of the strength, the advice we have been able to give elected members has been excellent, as it is truly representative of the needs and aspirations of Aucklanders. We don't perceive that we know it all, but we do know where to go to get any specific information regarding our groups. Like disability, I don't know it all, even though I'm a bit younger than Wayne, but I've been around a long time, and with disability, I don't know everything. So we are able to go and find that information and recommend to the governing body where that information can be. And that's how we as a group effectively manage what we do. Fundamentally, we are there for all Aucklanders to make sure we are giving advice and enables the city to be the best city in the country for everyone. We love this city, and that's why we stood for the boards, and we want to see the city grow and be part of something that we've been involved in. So now I will hand over to my youth colleague to carry on.
Thank you, Barry, for those excellent remarks, and credit where credit is due. I think Barry's talked about the strength of how we've collaborated as a group of panels, and often he's been at the center of that, keeping us together, especially during tough times. A couple of jokes come through from Barry's end, and I think everyone sort of comes together at the end, so that's been awfully nice. I just wanted to focus a little bit more on revising and sort of checking in on where we've been as a group of panels and the sort of journeys we've taken and the sort of discussions we've had. I think over the last year or so, we've crossed a lot of different subject areas, and the advice we've given has been super diverse, and I think it's just important to recognize the depth of that. We've talked to emergency response teams about what emergency response, especially in the wake of Auckland floods, look like over the coming years as climate events get more and more extreme. We've had a lot of work done on the long-term plan. I think we were one of the main groups that were consulted on using this new cross-panel advisory forum, these deliberative democracy practices. And I think we especially enjoyed the process of being consulted in a new and innovative way. That sort of engagement was unprecedented, and we appreciated that. We've been involved in the local board reorganization forums, so we've given extensive advice, or attempted to give extensive advice on what we want local boards to do for, all Aucklanders of diverse backgrounds. We've done a lot of work on storm recovery, understanding how we want to recover from last year's extreme weather event, but also what that recovery looks like when it's imbued with purpose and it's driven by community and diversity. And I think the one thing that I just wanted to check in on is last year when we came to give this update, we also presented to you our collective strategies as a group of panels. And I think the two things I'd urge this group to do today is, firstly, continue to lean and trust us as a repository of information as to what Aucklanders really need. I think, within us, we're encapsulated as what Auckland is truly representative of. And if you continue to ask us for advice that goes beyond, what we would argue is one-dimensional consultation, we're going to continue to give it to you because we have those interests in mind and at heart. But secondly, what I think the panel has always consistently advocated for is that this group stop seeing Auckland as a box of problems. I think even I have a tendency to do that. I'm an engineering student myself. But to stop seeing Auckland as a group of problems and to instead articulate a collective vision for what we want the city to be. And that has to be built on and built with the sort of values and strategies and priorities that communities like us are always coming up here to advocate for. That's probably the biggest thing that we'd like to take away from this entire process and journey. Thank you. Perfect. Just looking at the order, I believe I'm still up here for remarks, so I'll continue. But thank you so much, Barry. I really appreciate all of those remarks. Once again, Barry's the glue that keeps us together. So credit where credit is due. I think what we'll do is I'll go first and then the order is there, so we'll just keep on getting people to come in and continue to present. I'm the co-chair for the Youth Advisory Panel. My colleague Vera isn't here right now because she's at work, and a lot of my other colleagues aren't here right now because they're either sitting in class or at work as well. I should probably be sitting in class at some point, and I'll do that after this. For the Youth Advisory Panel, I think there's a couple of things that come to mind, but what I'd like to hone in on is what it means to be a young person in Auckland today, especially the progress that's been made from last year. I think the first thing to recognize is that being anyone, being a disabled person, being a young person, being a Pacifica person in Auckland hasn't necessarily gotten easier over the last year. There's a lot of things that have made living as diverse communities harder for us. Whether those problems have been prevalent or emergent, that's up for debate. But if I hone in on what young people really want and the problems that we're facing right now, I think there are three things that come to mind. First, I don't think we have a stake in Auckland, or we continue to feel as if we don't have a stake in Auckland. That's often reflected in a huge apathy towards the work that sort of happens here and the advocacy that sort of happens here. But it's also reflected in the fact that we're vanishing. We're moving to different cities, we're moving to different countries, and I think the difference between what that was 10 years ago, which was going overseas to get experience, then coming back here to resettle, versus the difference of what it is now, which is going overseas and then settling there, is really stark. And that's a huge pitfall because the sort of decisions you're making now, the consequences aren't going to play out until 10 years down the line. And 10 years down the line, we're the ones who are going to be dealing with those consequences. So once again, we continue to urge whenever you're making decisions to have those interests in mind, but also keep in mind the fact that we don't feel like we have a stake in the city, and we need you to reach out to us and make space for us to be at the table more consistently. I think the second thing that still speaks out to us, especially in a local government sense, is that housing is still a pipe dream. We talked last year a lot about how a lot of Aucklanders, young Aucklanders, want to own and live in their own house here. And that continues to be a far reach and a far stretch. The Youth Advisory Panel has been doing a lot of advocacy around that, and we're going to continue to be doing a lot of advocacy around that, but we still want, as a soft warning, but also as a red flag, that urgent action consistently needs to be taken to address the housing crisis in this city. The third thing, and the last thing that I'd like to point out is, and one thing we'd really like to appreciate, is the sort of work that the governing body has been doing on climate change. We really appreciate the urgency that's been undertaken to figure out how best we adapt to the challenges we're going to be facing tomorrow when it comes to the extreme weather events and the challenges that climate change is going to be bringing us. Once again, we urge you to continue doing that. And the work that we've been especially fond of are programs that fund on a community level young people to be leaders in their own communities when it comes to climate change and climate action. One thing that's really important for us is that not only are young people brought to the table, but they're consistently empowered and resourced to be leaders in their own right. I think when that happens, you see some of the best outcomes happen across communities because the sort of ideas we have tend to be a little bit more aspirational. the reason I'm able to sit here and talk to you today, and the reason that a lot of the young people in our panel exist today, are because of programs that Auckland Council has consistently funded to empower us to be leaders. I'd like to especially highlight youth councils and youth boards across the city. Those are currently under threat because of the financial challenges that the city faces, but unfortunately, because they're under threat, it also seeks to threaten the sort of leaders that we need for tomorrow. If we want to make sure that they're empowered to be at settings like this, empowered to be in your seats 10 years down the line, those programs continue to need funding and resourcing and a lot of attention and care. Before I finish off, I'd really like to thank Vic, Allison, Divya, Madeline, Millie, and my co-chair Vera, who've all been an incredibly wonderful and supportive team. I'd like to thank Shane for those wonderful quarterly catch-ups and the advocacy you've done around transportation. I'd like to thank Julie for always coming to our workshops and giving us really brilliant insights. And I'd like to encourage this entire group here today to continue fighting for higher quality community engagement, because that's the thing that enhances your decision-making at the end of the day. There are going to be people that always come up to you, but if you're able to reach out to the people that don't come up to you, that's what's going to make the difference. So I'd encourage you to keep doing that. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions.
I think what we'll do is we'll plough on through your the next ones and get the flavour of it all, if that's all right. So I think we've got Edwina Poe waiting patiently on the other side of the planet to tell us about senior advisors. Off you go. And I think is that you lead there, is it? With her. Okay, cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. And it is 12:49 a.m. in the morning for me. But it's always a pleasure to interact with the governing body and with the councillors, and we are very grateful for the opportunity. Your Worship, the Deputy Mayor, and as others have said, we are really supported by Auckland Council. I'd like to thank you all because, and if I use the Latin word sapere aude, dare to know. So you have been prepared to listen to what we have to say. Some things might not be that palatable, but you're still open to that. My co-chair, Claire Dale, is not here today, so Lee will be talking in her stead. I'd like to talk about the overarching age-friendly Auckland, which is what we look for, and we want the city to be age-friendly. We have, in that respect, we have an age-friendly Auckland implementation group, and two of us from our seniors advisory panel are part of that, Lee, who will be presenting in a little while, and myself. This year, on the 5th of November, there's going to be an age-friendly symposium. We had one last year. It was very well attended by around 100 people. Seniors, of course, are not by the way. Your Worship, you would know that. They are an increasing number, a vital part of Auckland. In Auckland, there's an aging population structure with 13.3% of the population 65 years and over. This is the 2023 census data. For those aged 65 plus in the Auckland region, between the 2018 census and the 2023 census, there's an increase of 16.2%. For the information of those present, 9,039 people in Auckland are 90 plus. So that's quite a large number. I'd also like to draw the attention of the councillors to the fact that the Asian population is increasing in Auckland, and there's an increase of 31.3%. Some research has been done on aging Asians in Auckland, but we also need to look at older women living alone and the vulnerability and insecurity due to housing and heating. We are very grateful that the CEO, Phil Wilson, came and presented to us on the DEI strategy. And I understand he's also going to be coming to talk to us to the different panels later. The second area under what we look at as a seniors advisory panel is safety. This has been already touched on by some of the councillors. And safety and accessibility engagement event we are going to have this month. Councillors are invited to join us if you would like to. It's in the middle of this month. The third aspect is transport. And we are really grateful that the Gold Card free facilities for public transport after 9 a.m. continues. Of course, we would like it to be for 24 hours because many of us work or someone has to go and keep their car in the garage. And that is important as well for us. The other areas are going to be covered by Lee. So Lee, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you also to everybody in this room. It's been said already, the panel's very grateful for the support we get from councillors, and I'd just like to recognise Councillor Ferry and also Councillor Filipaina, who's been very helpful to us in guiding us in our progress. I'd also want to echo our thanks to the council staff who support us in our meetings. It's a bit like having a crash course in the way of the council and understanding some of the mysteries that go on in the way the council operates. And I've got to say they've been very patient and very helpful. And that's also helped us to perhaps be more effective than we might have been otherwise. Scale of the problem, or scale of the opportunity, if you like it. When you put all the panel members together in one room, you've got about 100 people. You've got the youth, you've got disabled, you've got ethnic, you've got Maori, you've got everybody there together, you've got the seniors. It starts to look like Auckland. And I think that's the combined power of the panel groups, that we do represent the city, we are part of the city. And from the seniors' point of view, we're getting larger. By 2038, the forecast is there will be 370,000 plus people aged 65 or over living in Auckland. To put that into context, that's the population of Christchurch at the moment. Okay, so I think it's about 16% of the projected population. So we are a strategic issue. We are a strategic opportunity. We know what some of the focuses should be because we're living them at the moment. Edwina's touched on housing. Auckland currently has the highest proportion of seniors who feel or are experiencing living through vulnerabilities related to housing. Primarily, that's about the quality of their housing. And we've focused greatly on that. We're talking about damp, mouldy homes. We're talking about homes where people that can't afford to live anymore. And we're not just talking about renters, we're talking about mortgage holders as well in Auckland. So we think it's been really important for policymakers in the council to be aware that there's a looming problem here with housing for seniors. It's going to double over the next 12 years. How can we go about helping to eliminate some of the gaps in provision and some of the barriers to understanding? Well, the other beauty of the panel system is that we've been able to bring people together. So in our focus on housing, we've heard from Humaru, the council organisation, which is doing amazingly innovative work in how it provides community housing developments for specifically for older people, kicking off things like warm, dry, healthy places, kicking off building in community facilities, kicking off developing near transport hubs so people can get to the bus stop, that kind of thing, and local shops. Brilliant. We've heard from Plans and Places who have kind of undertook themselves to look again at design requirements which might be applied to consenting. We've heard from Kangaora, which was encouraging, but of course then Kangaora is now in kind of a bit of limbo until November. But Kangaora are aware of the issues facing ageing Aucklanders. And we've brought in somebody from the private sector. We heard from Simplicity Living. Sam Stubbs came in, brilliantly able to generate fast turnaround and volume. So we looked at quality, we looked at provision, and we looked at volume. And hopefully that can all be coalesced together as we go forward and influence policy and strategic thinking in the council. The other area I'd like to touch on is kind of all joined up together within this idea of access, safety and access. The two kind of link together very much. We were grateful for being listened to in the long-term plan process, which I think everybody involved with from the panels thought was extremely well put together. I was looking at my notes earlier, and it actually started back in August last year. So we kind of, that's been a theme running through what we've been thinking about. To give you two examples, I think in terms of access, we feel we've been listened to by Auckland Transport, and we feel that there's going to be more buses, and also that the use of the hop car is going to be extended, so seniors are able to be part of the city and not just be a sort of 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock part of the city, which is fantastic. So that's just one little example. In terms of emergency planning, we felt we were listened to in terms of very simple things like, well, actually, a lot of old people don't have telephones, so how are they going to get the warnings they're going to get flooded? Emergency housing. Do you know how many emergency housing facilities there are for old people in Auckland? Suitable for old people? 20. Right. And if you're 21, then you're given a list of motels that you might phone. Okay? It's not a blame thing, it's just something that people aren't aware of. Disaster preparedness goes on. People don't know where to go. You can't ask an old person who hasn't got an internet, who's not internet capable, to go and look up where they should go, where their emergency centre is. We see a great role for local bodies here, local boards, and some of the panel members have been working towards that. So these issues come up, but we get listened to, and it's fantastic, and that shows a really good amount of open-mindedness. I'd echo Edwina again and invite councillors to attend. We're having a sand table exercise. When is it, Edwina? A couple of weeks' time? I can't remember.
It's going to be on the 12th of August, I think.
Right. So we heard earlier on about the problems with the city centre and the macro dynamics of that, retail, parking spaces, that kind of thing. We're going to do an exercise where old people have to get from their home to an event in the city centre and actually walk through all the stages. And we're hoping that will bring it down to reality and maybe give some clues as to what practically can be done very simply to improve that access and the safety of making those journeys. There are things like, can you get to the art gallery without having to climb 25 flights of stairs? Where are the public conveniences? We will map all that out and hopefully provide a bit of a blueprint for some improvements in that area. So I just want to finish by saying thanks to the council for this opportunity for our voices to be heard. Thanks for the way you've gone about it to allow us to be heard. And let's hope we can keep doing it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Lee. I think we've now got the Rainbow Communities. Do they want to say something? Yes, they do. Josh Martin.
Tēnā koutou. I'm McLean. I'm lead officer for the Rainbow Communities Advisory Panel. I normally work supporting our 21 local boards, but supporting the panel is close to home. Apologies on behalf of our co-chairs, Josh and Teresa, who can't be here today. They have a wonderful candor about them that I wish you could experience. But I wanted to give you an indication of areas of interest the panel is exploring. Auckland Council has Rainbow Communities Engagement Guidelines. These were created in 2016. The world has changed a surprising amount since then. So looking at if a refresh were to occur, how the panel could best advise on that. The queer community has had some internal conflicts the last 6 years. And we're looking at if there's a role for council to help heal the bridge between Rainbow Parade and Pride March. This was sparked in 2018 by police presence in the parade. We're looking at safety of rainbow communities and the council's role. This is especially with vandalism of the Rainbow Crosswalk on K Road. Supporting 2023 census data release, which now includes data on gender and sexual identity. There will be some sensitivities around that and how we communicate numbers and definitions. Fostering an ongoing relationship with council's diversity, equity, and inclusion teams. Civics education and increasing election turnout. generating better rainbow participation, especially for Maori, and including artwork from rainbow and Takatapui artists in spaces like the CRL. I don't get to say this much as an officer, but probably best if I don't answer any questions on behalf of the panel, but I'll pass on any questions you do have. Ngā mihi nui.
Thank you very much for that, indeed, and I'm holding the questions until we get to the end. The Pacific Peoples Advisory... Sorry, no, Ethnic Advisory. My humble apologies for that. But I welcome Irene and Krish. Namaste.
Kia ora everyone, Nisambula Vinaka, namaste. Mayor Worship Wayne Brown, Deputy Mayor C. Phil Wilson, and all the councillors. And I'd like to say a big thank you to Councillor Julie Ferry and Councillor Karen Leone for all the support and mahi behind the scenes. Thank you for that. So for ethnic panel, I'm the co-chair Krish Naidu, and my fellow co-chair Irene Rahiman joins me together to present some of the updates for our panel. And for our panel, the overall vision is to ensure that we provide robust, informed, and credible advice to the mayor and governing body to ensure the interests, challenges, and opportunities of Tamaki Makaurau's ethnic and migrant communities are considered in council decisions. And our key themes are belonging and inclusion, safety, economic growth and development, transport, climate action, and sustainability. So I will speak to the first two on belonging and inclusion and safety. For belonging and inclusion, one of our key aims is to ensure that the council attracts ethnic people to stand for local board elections and supports ethnic voter participation. One of the things we are really grateful for is the opportunity to engage with the local board forums and the reorganization consultation that was held recently. However, we still feel that there's a lot of work to be done in ensuring the ethnic community is connected to the local board councils, as well as making sure for 2025, more local board, for the local board elections, more ethnic people stand, and we also increase voter turnout for the ethnic people. And as a panel, we are very keen to support that initiative, and we'll also encourage the council to engage more closely with our communities. And on that note, we have been advocating strongly that around Flatbush, Ormiston area, there's been a huge growth, and that the demographic growth there is not reflected in the current council makeup and also in the local board. So we are grateful and looking forward to Flatbush having more representation perhaps for next year. So we'll take that as a bit of a win. The other thing is that we also want to ensure that there is better representation of ethnic staff and diverse staff in Auckland Council in itself. And that's in Auckland Council senior management, across Auckland Council in general, but also Auckland Council's graduate programs. And a couple of weeks ago, we met with the lead advisor, Leonard Reed, and of course with C. Phil Wilson, and we're really grateful that Phil is quite supportive, and he's also wants to see this happening. So as a panel, we will be keeping track on this and hopefully monitoring, because I think we can have a DER policy, but we need to make sure that there is good evaluation and monitoring of it, and reporting it back to the community to have trust and confidence around that. And as part of the inclusion and belongingness, it's also important that the cultural events continue to happen, such as Lantern festivals and Diwali. But we also, as a community, would like to see a better taxpayers' dollar being spent. We know there's so many Diwali functions happening in Auckland, one in Waitakere, one in North Shore, one in Manukau, one in Auckland City, and there's a lot of repetition going on. And I think there needs to be a review around this, and we will be meeting with the event management team later with Tataki Auckland to discuss some of this, including the way the programs are structured, the way the stalls are managed, the way the stalls are sold. There is a growing dissatisfaction in the community around this, but we fully need these events, but we need to rethink the way going forward. So a couple of things coming up next week, we will be meeting with the Minister for Ethnic Communities, Minister Lee, and as a panel, we'd like to invite you all on Tuesday, the 13th of August. we will be talking to the minister, and we would like to build a stronger relationship with the ministry, because we believe that the panel can really support the ministry and give some advice and connect the ministry to the grassroots, so that their ongoing plans and programs are more fit for purpose moving forward, including the budget, which is around $4 million. It does not really represent the needs and wants of a growing population, which is going to be reflected in the coming census as well. And also thank you, Phil, for meeting with us to discuss a potential Facebook page for the ethnic community. We feel that a number of updates, there's a lot of great things happening at the council, a lot of great stories that I think it's worth sharing with the community, and a Facebook page for the ethnic communities would be a way forward, a good progress. We look forward to engaging with you further on this. In regards to safety, this is probably a big concern for our panel. We continue to see safety issues around antisocial behavior on Queen Street. International students report a lot of these problems to us, and as someone working in the industry, I know retail crime is growing, and as panel members, we also wear a lot of community hats. We attend a lot of community forums around crime, and I know Auckland Council does not have the answer to all the crime-related issues. There's other parties and agencies involved. But as a panel, we are willing to provide advice and support around Auckland Council's plans around safety. So, and it's really disappointing, because we know that in public transport around Auckland Transport, people continue to report racism, verbal abuse, physical threats, and it's probably something that as a community we would want council to be a bit more mindful of and take a swift approach to solving some of these issues. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll pass it now to Irene to focus on other areas.
Kia ora koutou, assalamu alaikum, nisambula vinaka, and greetings to you all. I'll be reporting on 2 items. First is the long-term planning. This took significant panel time, starting phase 1 in December 2023 and all the way to mid of phase 3 as in May 2024. As a panel, we advised on the feedback form, which focused on keeping the language simple first and foremost. There was a series of workshops at this level. For phase 2, we provided the Auckland Council team lists of all key ethnic organizations, community leaders, and other stakeholders so that higher numbers of ethnic peoples could participate. The challenges identified by the panel members were, and in no particular order, first, the information was too technical on the LTP. Second, in-depth information wasn't available on some topics to give rationale feedback. And third, engagement must be as welcoming as possible, hence encouraging and providing opportunities in different modes of engagement. We were glad to note that this was the highest participation ever to be recorded for a 3-year budget feedback. We took every opportunity to encourage our communities to participate and share the information widely. For the feedback where ethnicity was recorded, Asians were the 2nd largest after European population. We still note that compared to the census, though, we had less from Howick, West and South Auckland. However, we'd like to celebrate this monumental success, noting that compared to whole of Auckland, the Mila and the Asian communities came out quite well in providing feedback. My second item is climate action and sustainability. We acknowledge Auckland Council as a C40 city. We are a trailblazer city, raising climate ambitions. We influence the global agenda. Climate action is vital for all of us. We at the Ethnic Communities Advisory Panel want to ensure that Auckland's emergency management system is responsive to the needs of ethnic and migrant communities before, during, and after emergency events. In August 2023, we provided advice on the storm recovery and civil defense emergency management plans. We were one of the panels that authored the report for all panels, and this report was presented to the governing body in November 2023. Our focus now is to support engagement, awareness, and readiness of ethnic communities by working with teams at Auckland Council. In the climate action, including local boards, we feel that there are gaps in engagement, and we have been able to identify opportunities on how to do the engagement with our communities better. It is important to note that not all local boards have ethnic peoples' representations. Leaving climate action, emergency readiness, and responses at that level can present as a challenge. One way to mitigate that challenge is through the guidance and support of ethnic panel advisors who have strong community readiness and mobilization skills, vast experiences with embedded respectful relationships and knowledge. We look forward to this important mahi. Ethnic Communities Advisory Panel at Auckland Council provides a strategic advantage for all policy and planning levels where decisions are made, as climate justice is a cross-cutting theme across all areas and in addressing the determinants of health, which is economic prosperity, employment, housing, strengthening social and health services, and others. In conclusion, we do feel that all advisory panel work and feedback should be looped or captured in Auckland Council's and CCO plans and strategies. We also would like to welcome feedback from ACC and CCO staff on how our feedback and support has contributed to improved changes. In closing, I'd like to acknowledge the support and guidance of Victoria Weeks-Brown and her team, Millie and Michaela, and also Manoj Raghupati. And I'd like to acknowledge all esteemed panel advisors of the Ethnic Communities Advisory Panel who go above and beyond the advisory allocated time to support Auckland Council in any request that arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And we look forward to receiving the Pacific Panel's representative. Sumanu Simon Matawhai and Litiana Karika.
Whaftai tele lava, your worship. Mayor.
Malofala'i.
I think I need to do Eddie's exercise just because my fingers are cold. Miri, if you are here with us. Patia, no, Pati. Hey. So fu matungo fie, malelangi matafi, pa ia fata whaale malu. Fono tanga le aitele nei au kilani. Vi ia le tua tas tolu pa ia. Councillor Filipaina, me se paali tapo I fuli. Tēnā koe Leone, tangata whenua, esteemed councillors, Deputy Mayor, Choir Maestro, congratulations, and our CEO Phil Wilson in the whale as well. Tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora and talofa lava. Feels like a world tour, and now we've come to Oceania. Pacifica, 1/3 of the Earth's surface, pretty much heaven on earth. Pacifica salutations on behalf of the Pacific People's Advisory Panel. Just like the song that our amazing Deputy Mayor and the choir sang, Minoi, 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 which means move like an ant, because an ant is a wise insect. My name is Seomanu Sewoti, Simon Matawhai, and it is my honor to speak on behalf of my co-chair, Litiana, who sends apologies, and our amazing team. We're like a family now. Hai Noame, Evo, Hasana, Seimoana, Mary, Arizona, Penina, Taituunga, Maavai, and Malvin. And these are our amazing co-leads, Lesunga ya Italia, Malesunga ya Paul, and of course we acknowledge Councillor Ferry, Le Sunga Victoria, and all the team, and especially Lotu Furi, who comes to all our meetings and our events. I asked for a recent photograph, please. There you go. Look at these beautiful, handsome people. This was taken at our community engagement event, and I would like to use it as the backdrop for my update today. Good-looking bunch. This is the family of Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. The last time I was here, Your Worship, I introduced ourselves and our 3 priorities or areas of focus. I shared on CCM, not CCTV, CCM, which is climate resilience, civic engagement, and mental well-being. And since then, I'm happy to report back that we are tracking well. Do you reckon, Paul and Talia? We're doing okay. We're getting there. I have personally been in the media, famous guy, across the Pacific, educating our community and locally about the crucial roles of the demographic panels. And it is apparent that we are truly leaders in the space of collaborative synergy of this august body of council officers and diverse leaders of the cultural expertise and lived experience. As you know, and as mentioned just previously, the LTP consultation process saw the highest ever community response from diverse groups, which is a badge of pride for all demographic panels to share. With our focus on climate resilience, our approach is grassroots, and also helping with the Auckland climate research that is undertaken by some scholars, ensuring that our community is best prepared for that next January 27 natural weather event. That is where this photo is from, in beautiful South Auckland and Otara. I'm West Auckland undercover, but I was allowed into South Auckland to celebrate our beautiful community. And we had a successful engagement. I wish you were all there. And the planning team told us it was the first targeted engagement of this nature. So this is a good start for our communities. Does anyone here know the 4 R's? I'll give you a crunchy bar. I won't put any councillors on the spot, that's okay. You can quietly pretend you know the 4 R's, according to emergency management. Reduction, readiness and response, and recovery. Those were the main themes that our community were able to share that beautiful evening. And I would like to say, in looking forward, we aim to build on this work, especially with local body elections. Maybe you've gone through your selection process already, looking at your campaign already. This is also an educational matter for our community so that they do turn up and are more engaged, ensuring that their voices are heard. And just like the solidarity and the positivity working across the other boards, or the other panels, I should say, we really love working alongside each other on matters of intersectionality, which has really proven to be invaluable. And to finish, I thought I've just changed my notes here. In true panel fashion, I would like to convey a message on behalf of the team and I in reference to your pools and leisure centres. Please, governing body, whaafofonga mai whamole mole lava. I implore the governing body to please consider our communities when thinking of privatisation. We have a one-pager, because you guys like one-pages, detailing our view on the matter, readily available if you'd like to read further. I am the only West Auckland panel member, alongside my old friend Taito, who played the piano so good. Eddie's piano playing deserves a mention as well. And particularly from the foe, where we were shortchanged by Auckland City Legacy Council and let down many times from previous terms. We were promised for a swimming pool decades and decades. I was on the local board and we too tried our best, but nothing happened. Thankfully, there are some recent developments. Thank you, Councillor Leone, and I'm encouraged to hear of these recent developments. But I'm not ashamed to say, Your Worship and governing body, that I'm not a confident swimmer. And who do I blame? Auckland City Council. We had no pools to swim in. What's the bathtub going to do? We had no aquatic facility. And that's why there's a big need for this. And we must ensure that we protect the existing community facilities in our beautiful communities. It's not just pools and leisure centres. They are spaces for the community to thrive and grow. They are for our vulnerable groups, our elderly who go there, those with disabilities, the young people to become confident swimmers. That's why I never jump off the cliff in Samoa because I'm too scared. I just swim with my little nephews and nieces in the kids' pool. There you have it. Local body elections are just around the corner. A friendly reminder. Please protect our beautiful swimming pools that already exist and serve in our communities. I finish with this. I bet you haven't heard the Samoan translation of this famous Māori proverb. He aha te mea nui o te ao. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. This is my translation, copyright 2024. O leale mea siri e tāua, o leale mea siri o na tāua I le lalolangi. O tangata, o tangata, o tangata. The most important thing in the world, elected representatives and appointed panel members, it is people, it is people, it is people. The core reason why we're here. Soifua mai manuia.
Thank you for that. And now we welcome back Martine and Barry.
Kia ora koutou katoa, Martine Abel Williamson here. Thank you very much for listening to us again. And I want to start by thanking Councillors Ferry and Stewart for supporting us and for the staff. We've got an amazing team in John, Elise, Millie and Victoria, etc. My first point I want to make is I want to congratulate the Council on its induction for us. Often disabled people can be very good advocates, but to understand how a body works, like a council, we need to know about policies and action plans and things like that, and not just, yell from the rooftops. So really want to thank you for a great induction opportunity, and which is probably still ongoing. I also want to thank the others here from our panel that couldn't join us, that might be tuning in. Thank you. You are an amazing, diverse bunch. Many people have already mentioned the storm recovery and civil defence plans, but for many disabled people, this is still a huge problem because even if you think like items like what is stormwater and when does the height of water become a problem? Well, if you can't stand a specific height or walk a specific speed, then it actually should be more than it currently is. That's just one example. So many people have already spoken about the long-term plan, so I will not say anything about it. Apart from that, I got tired of my computer's voice because it was a very long document. The Auckland government model representation, it was a very privilege to participate in it because it's great to be acknowledged that we must every few years think of how do we look like. For the first time this term, we were linking with local boards. And we know we don't want to have a rod for our own back because there's so much work to do. But it was really great to see Waiheke reaching out to us with some of their local issues for support. So we are very excited to link with local boards because it's usually at local board level that we're looking at things like swimming pool access, if there's a new playground needed, things like that. Then it was always great to hear presentations from staff, but it was great to proceed to have time to do strategic planning so that we don't just feel like a box-ticking exercise. And in this, I want to thank Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, councillors, and Phil Wilson came to visit us, and it was really just great to get to know people. So the rest of you, I think we still got a few workshops on. Please come and join us and see what we're about. Last year we met with the Royal Commission on COVID because, as many of you probably already realised, disabled persons did struggle a great deal during COVID because of issues to do with social distancing, access to support in people's own homes, etc. I'll touch a very small bit on Auckland Transport because I know so much have already been said about Auckland Transport. But for us, like many others, housing and transport is probably two items that can really take ages. So firstly, we were glad to have been consulted around the draft regional plan. That is a huge plan, and we need council's disability operational action plan to marry up with some of these, that we don't just have a group of plans all over the place. There should be a way to marry them up. And in that process, I want to acknowledge council having a disability operational action plan, and we're looking forward to more progress on that. The CRL, we had for some of us had a bit of a visit to the underground stations, and there was great problems that was identified at the time. So we trust that that can be resolved. We have the review of total mobility coming up, the discount for taxi users, and also things like accessible parking. So we're really keen to have more done in the in the transport space. Two last things. One is we were very keen to have met at our recent forum, overall forum of all the panels, the manager of diversity, in equity and inclusion. So we are really keen to see progress and more people with disability joining council. For instance, we heard about the pipelines of things like work experience, cadetships. We so want to see more disabled people being employed and being proud employees of Auckland Council. Last, before I pass on to Barry to talk about our exciting event in October, etc., as others said, the elections is not too far away. And I have said this before, but it is still not very accessible for people, especially some people who are older and who are blind and deafblind. We can still not vote independently, in privacy and in confidence. So without further ado, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'll pass on to Barry.
You move it this way.
Martine.
I hope you're all still awake. Yeah, I can see your eyes open, so that's pretty good. I don't see any councillors that are disabled, though. That's quite a shame, really, isn't it? So we're not really represented. Oh, you, yeah, and age, so it's all right, yeah. Some of the things that we have worked on that are really interesting for me is that what I've come to realise is most council departments have disability in their what they have to do, but they try and do it themselves rather than trying to get expert advice on how to do it. And usually they fail miserably, I have to say. But they're very good and open to suggestions, so they come along and talk to us, and we can put them right. I mean, playgrounds is the classic example of where they do some for disabled people and some not. And what I want to see is them all done, even if it takes more time, to actually get them for disabled people. I'm a grandfather now, and I can't even get into the playgrounds near where I live because there's barriers up, so I can't go on my own with my grandchildren and actually play with them in the playground. So there's a lot of work to do in that area. The other area that I find really, that we've found really difficult is the local transport system, where you can ring up and order a van, I believe, because they're not accessible. They are on the shore. I don't know why they got accessible ones and we didn't, but I take the train quite often because my clients at my service said, do you take the train, Barry? And I said, no, so now I take it all the time. But I have to take my van to the train station rather than getting a local, which I'd love to take, to the train station and then go to wherever. I would have taken it today, but there is none for me, so I drove into the city. So, and that's another thing, is the parking. I can't reach those stupid things up that you've got to put money in, or cards or anything like that. We had the trouble at the hospital, didn't we, Wayne? And it's really difficult if you're disabled and on your own to actually get to anywhere. So there are some of the issues that were coming. I have to say, the people dealing with emergency response have been very interested in what we've got to say, and we are running we don't have to, but we're running a workshop in October in conjunction with the emergency response people, and that's going to be on emergency response. So we're going to get people's feedback and actually try and help sort out some of the issues that are going on for disabled people in an emergency, because I have to say it was abysmal in the last one where we had people crawling across the floor because the only house they had to house their family was in a house with steps, and it's not good enough. And I think if the council would pick up on the total design idea, it would work brilliantly for all people, not just disabled, not just seniors, but everybody, because they're designed in a way that you can just adapt it very quickly for anybody. And if the council and other councils do it, then the private builders and designers and developers will get behind it as well, because he's saying it's too costly to do, because you have to have the special doors made and all that sort of thing. But I think that's a really stupid argument, because look at the buses. They said they couldn't do accessible buses. Now look at it. So it's been a really interesting time for us. We've been and talked to the staff that are disabled within council, and we have contact with them, and with outside groups like Waiheke. We were able to point them in the right direction to be able to get their issues sorted. And we're looking forward to the next 2 years. So it's not that close to the election, but we want to get as much done as possible in the next 2 years. So we set the scene for any changes that will be in the future. And we want to be part of that. We don't want to be left behind. So thank you.
Oh, very good again, Barry. Never let me down. Barry and I go back for a while on the having a cynical disbelief in the expertise of these disability architects. We had them at the hospital, and they said it was all going to work. And I sent you out, and it failed at the first opportunity. City Railing also promised me that there was absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it failed at the first opportunity. So we have to really involve you people. You're the experts. And I think it's been an excellent presentation from all of our panels. I'd like to thank Victoria Wicks-Brown, who's worked hard with all of these ones, and Councillor Ferry. And next time we'll have the business guys popping their head in as well, who do actually represent. We already had the small flower business battling away, and they have representatives of that group of disability as well. I have questions from Councillors Dalton, Sayers and Fletcher and Hills about various bits and pieces, but we'll have these, and then we'll have one more procedural item, and then we'll go to lunch, just so that we're in a state of heightened excitement for the Chief Executive's report. Councillor Dalton, please.
Thank you, and thank you to all of the panels. They were such great presentations, and I think if there was a common theme across them all for me, it was the importance of deliberative democracy and how we need to get even better at that. We're getting there slowly, but we need to continue that process. You've made that really clear. My question was for Edwina and Lee, and it was around housing for our ageing population. Lee, you said that there are 20 emergency housing, but in Auckland, do you know what supply there is of housing for our ageing population? Specifically, perhaps Kāinga Ora and the provision we currently have, and I'm picking this. I hear there's no spades in the ground from 2025, so the future does not look optimistic. But do you have any sense of the availability or provision of housing for our ageing population?
I think.
Lee, you can go first.
Oh, sorry. Sitting there patiently in Oxford. Everybody's very sympathetic to that. I was going to say, I think the question is not about provision of housing, it's a question of money. There's plenty of houses if you've got the money and you've got the ability to shift around. There's no doubt that Kāinga Ora is not going to be a saviour. They have to go back to the Minister, I think, in November with a brand new plan. And that won't be about providing housing for seniors. It'll be about being a landlord, as we know. So where does the burden then fall on making sure there's provision for housing? Well, Humaru is fantastic. They're very limited in the scope of what they can do. We're very interested to hear from Simplicity Living, who've got a fantastic model of build-to-rent, good quality houses. They do good stuff really quick. The council itself is not really in the business of providing housing for seniors. So I would guess, Edwina, I think our plea is that there's some way, mechanism of joining these together, because everybody's got a part of the solution. Nobody's got the whole solution as anything to do with housing. And so it's a matter of strategy and policy, and council leads the strategy and the policy.
There is a very long waiting list, is my understanding, and yet a number of houses are empty because they have not been appropriately serviced. So again, different aspects need to really work together and pull together for seniors who are a growing population. Also, I believe that a number of houses, in terms of emergency management, seniors find it very difficult if there is an alarm and they've got to leave the place. There are too many steps for many of them to climb as well.
Thank you, Edwina. Thank you, Lee. I think the opportunity for council to leverage our haumaru housing is an important discussion to be had. We have many single level houses that are very, very old and need to be demolished. That if we could somehow broker that conversation, that would be an outcome that we could help with. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sayers, please.
Thank you, Worship. And thank you, Worship, for acknowledging not just our presenters today, but the staff and the councillors that are also involved. It was a very helpful update for those that haven't been directly involved, so thank you very much for that. My question is going to be directed towards the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate, and it's around one of the key messages that I heard was, the council engaging with people whom we might not normally engage with directly and looking at new ways of trying to make that happen, and how the long-term plan process seemed to have some really pluses about the early involvement, and we have the annual plan coming up. And I understand from our long-term plan exercise and the learnings from that, there's an idea of a citizens' assembly, and I just thought it might be appropriate time if we're able to elaborate, not just for our audience, but also for the councillors, just a little bit more on perhaps where that's at and the thinking around that. Phil, if you're in a position to elaborate on that at all?
I will, Councillor. I'll invite Eddie to Eddie, come and join me here to talk to the specifics there. I might just say before, as Eddie's walking up, I'm in full agreement with the panels actually that this is an area of ongoing work for us. You know, there is absolutely a value in us improving our relationship with the community through opportunities to participate, to engage, to provide input to decision making. So we need to get more sophisticated about this. We have been making quite an effort in that direction, and there are new tools being tried as evidenced in the long-term plan process, but Eddie and his colleagues are key to this, so my friend.
Thank you, CE. Through the chair, Councillor Sayers, thank you for the pātai. Where we're at in terms of the deliberative or participatory hikoi is, as a council, it's sort of a new space for us. And so, as Councillor Dalton alluded to, we've been trialling things on the smaller or lower, more grassroots level, and they've gone well. So what we've done henceforth is we've updated the significance and engagement policy, which, as you're all aware, tells communities how and when they can expect to be engaged. That now reflects that council is seeking to be more participatory, which is essentially with communities, not to communities. In terms of the engagement guidelines, it's about building capacity and capability across the organisation. So we've done those things. Where are we now? Coming back to your pātai around the annual plan, we're currently having conversations with our colleagues in finance and also Mayor Brown's office. It's really around what kind of area are you as a governing body and elected members keen on seeing more input, more involvement, more participation from our community. So I expect that there will be a working party or through the chair where we'll look to explore that with you as elected members, and then we'll look to progress annual plan. So we've done our things internally in terms of getting some wins on the board, the significance and engagement policy, updating the guidelines. It's now about coming back to this body saying what areas might we be willing to work more closely with our communities.
Okay, thanks very much for that question and answer. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Well, thank you. Thanks for all of the presentations, but my question is specifically to Lee in terms of the seniors panel. Lee, Council had an Own Your Own unit across the villages of Auckland that was specifically designed as affordable housing options for older Aucklanders. It was determined in the last term of council that these be sold, which was controversial at the time. Panuku were charged with the sale of it. The sale fell through, and it's left, and I'm not sure where the sale is at the moment, it's left a lot of very vulnerable older people uncertain about their accommodation. It was based on the fact that seniors wanted to enjoy the security and independence of owning their own home, but having that opportunity to purchase it. Did the seniors panel give advice on the sale of these units? And if not, would you be willing to provide some advice going forward into the future on the Own Your Own Home scheme?
Short answer is no, and yes. We don't know about it. We haven't talked about it. We weren't aware of it. I wasn't. I think Edwina's nodding there. And yes, we'd love the opportunity to talk about that.
I really appreciate that, because I think that this is something that has caused quite a bit of grief amongst a community that could be vulnerable. So I would really welcome any input that you can provide into the future.
Just to give a bit of context, Kanga Ora did report that they have 8,000 waiting list amongst seniors in central Auckland for applicable appropriate housing of 8,270 people. That's the scale we're talking about. So every little helps.
Good short
And
answer.
if I could,
Thank you for that.
if I could add, if I could just add, as co-chair, we're happy to put this as an agenda item for our meetings and always happy to participate in what will make the life of seniors better. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Hills, please.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Mayor.
just a point of clarification on the own your own homes issue. The seniors panel has been talking about that, and Alf's been bringing it up with them, and it has been that particular scheme has been a topic of conversation that's ongoing. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Ferry. Councillor Hills, please.
Thank you, and thank you to all the panels. It's a huge amount of work, and you know, it really does help our decision making. So, and I really enjoy my time with the Rainbow panel, who I know that can't be here. But thanks to McLean, and acknowledge Simon backing you on the pools and leisure. Thank you for your comments on that. My two questions. One is for Barry and Martina, and just want to say I might beat you, Mayor. I think the first time I met you, Barry, I was 14 years old, and you spoke to a peer support camp that I was on, and get to give us an understanding of your life and how you can do anything, and you proved that to us, and I remember that vividly for my whole life, I guess, around that anything that's thrown at you, you can still do whatever you want to do, as long as we remove some of those barriers. So I guess to my question for the disability panel, it seems like we get it right sometimes, and we get it wrong a lot of the time, but it seems like you're pushed through so many different boxes and to different people. How can we make the system better? Because it seems fairly clear, you know, dimensions, the types of things. You shouldn't have to consult on every single toilet block or every single building or bus. How do we, what's the key to doing this? Because I feel for you all trying to do this work, and it just keeps, you know, the mistakes keep getting made.
I wish you hadn't brought that up about me talking to you when you're 13. It makes me feel really old now. The big thing is that through the whole process of building, the building inspectors are hopeless at actually understanding disability. You can have 5 different building inspectors come and look at something, and they have their opinion and they make things change, but none of them really understand disability. They're going from the specs that they have to abide by without actually looking at properly as we have to do as disabled people and as the builders have to do. So I think some of that sort of knowledge would be really good, because you're right, everywhere you go something's different. I just bought a house, and the garage, one building inspector came and had a look at the garage, and then another one came along and approved it, and then another one came along and said, no, it's no good, you've got to pull it down and do it again. And that's the same for disability. It's just not working to help us when they don't understand the rules and regulations that they're trying to interpret to build anything or put ramps anywhere. So it's a really good point. Thank you.
Yep.
Am I on? Yes. Another thing too is, and maybe this is where council could do some national advocacy at central government level, is our building code is over 30 years old, and MB is not planning, even though disabled people have been asking now for a very long time, to review it, and it's not a priority. And so you can actually build what's on paper an accessible building that might get signed off, and then if you look at your the architects amongst you will know about accessible alternative solutions, then they're all interpreted differently, as Barry said. So we do need you to advocate for that, please, because if central government sign something off to have a higher level, then this will have to happen at our level too. And just another thing that I said in my presentation, it will be really good if some of the strategies and plans line up well together, because then we won't have to repeat ourselves.
No, perfect. Thank you. That's good food for thought for all of us, I think, and officers too. The last question I have is for Sanat, and I guess thank you for bringing up climate and you know,
younger people's push on that. But I guess what I'm hearing from young people, and you obviously are hearing from younger people, is they're moving away for things like public transport, walking, cycling, housing choice like apartments and things. What are you seeing and hearing? That are people moving to cities that we currently don't have those things? Like, if we did more of that, would that help?
I think that's a really great question. I think the thing to underline here is that if there are cities that do things and cities that don't do things, the end result is going to be the same. That those consequences are going to play out regardless. But what we've been noticing, or what I've been noticing in spaces that I've been, are people are going to cities that have high quality infrastructure, whether that's transport infrastructure or any other amenities, and then they have high quality and accessible housing. And I think the key thing that we tend to fail when we box ourselves into very compartmentalized problems is it neglects the complexity of the fact that those things are always going to be interlinked. If we're talking about responding to the climate crisis, it's going to be how do we build housing, then on top of that, how do we build transport infrastructure that can tackle that at the same time? So yes, in short answer, people are moving to cities that do have those things and that will be better equipped to handle a climate crisis, for example. In saying that, I think Auckland Council's been doing a really good job, at a local level at least, to build the city up for what is going to be potentially very future catastrophic events. But in saying that again, as a country, the way we solve these problems needs to encapsulate that complexity. It can't be single modules. It has to be, how do we respond to the climate crisis? We change how we design all of these things holistically. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Fuli.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. I've got mostly a comment, but I do have a question right at the end. I'd just like to start by commending all of you, all of our advisory groups, for the work that you've been doing so far. I feel that this term, more than other terms, we've had a lot more engagement with our panels, with the governing body and across council generally, and it's been really, really, really beneficial to all of us and to our decision making. So I thank you for that, and I encourage you to keep doing that as well. I wanted to specifically mention the Pacific People's Advisory Panel. I've really enjoyed being a part of that panel and going along as the councillor to support. And I just want to mihi to Loa Fionga, Se Manu, Se Oti as well for your strong voice and for taking the opportunity to bring that last piece of advocacy to our attention as well today. Thank you for that, because often Pacifica voices don't get air in spaces like this, so I commend you for that as well. My question, somebody said right at the start of the presentations that when you look at all the advisory panels, it starts to look like Auckland, which is awesome. That's true. It's reflecting what Auckland actually looks like. But that's not necessarily reflected around this governing body table. So my question, and I mean any one or more can answer, what do you think we can do better as a governing body or as an organisation to ensure that those voices are represented here at the governing body in these elected positions or at the local board level? Kia ora. Thank you.
I'm happy to start. I think the issue for me is that if I wanted to stand for council or anything, I can't put up signboards, I can't. People like myself don't have the funding or the backing to be able to put together a program to let people know that we're out there to become on the board. It's a very difficult thing for people to get involved in at the grassroots level. To me, that's one of the major issues, and to be welcomed into a system that is mainly able-bodied. And the structure of this place, especially, is able-bodied driven. Even when I come into the council buildings, you've got to flash your card. I tried it once, flashed my card, got ready to go, the door's closed. Flashed my card, tried to go, the door's closed. So they're not user-friendly for people that have disabilities to start with. So I know people would love to stand and be part of the process, but it has to be easier for people to be able to be part of that so that they're equal in standing as councillors or mayor or whatever.
Good answer, thank you very much. I'll get Alf to ask his next question.
Kia ora koutou and sathriaka. Nā loso I wholo whionga si manu. Whawhtai te le lava. Look, my question is around the work that you all do, and I'm unsure around a comms strategy. And the reason I say that is because the work that you're doing needs to be put out there. I know that earlier on in the year, or last year, we ended up having the floods, and I know that Auckland Council comms team were tied up with that, and so they should have. But is there anybody, and firstly the question is, would a comms strategy around the work that you do be beneficial? Number one. Number two, it'll be good to get an update around how that's working. And the very small comment I have, I just want to tautoko what Councillor Ferry said at the beginning of this item, which is to acknowledge all the advisory panels, the councillors and the staff who are with them. So those are the two parts I have. Would it be useful for the boards, and also is there an update from either Victoria or anybody else around the comm strategy? Kia ora, Chair, thank you.
Kia ora, I'll take that in the first instance if that's okay. It's something that Victoria and I in particular have been talking about for some time. And you're right, we did start discussing it early on and then got derailed by the storms and the impact and the huge impact that had on our comms team. So it is something that we're picking up again. Originally we were looking at potentially having at least one story each year, maybe two on each panel and the work that they were doing, and we just haven't been able to get that through with the comms side yet, but those conversations are very much underway. There's also an acknowledgement, there's several different audiences here. I think the panels are set up to face us and to inform our decision making, and I think we've probably got that about right. Probably could do a little bit more in that space, but that's probably about right. What we need to improve on is the comms from panels to the communities that they are there to offer us advice on behalf of, and also the more general awareness of the really good work that they're doing. And so those are the two areas that I think we're focusing on. How do we do that right? How do we enable the panels to have their own communication directly to the communities they're working with? But also how do we make sure the general community is aware of the great work. And so, for example, when people come to us, as I'm sure all of you have had and said, well, how is the community, how do you listen to, say, the Nuaean community or something? We can say, well, actually part of it, not all of it, but part of it is that we have this Pacific Peoples panel. And we take advice from them on how to get better at engaging with those parts of the community, but also hearing directly from that community. So, yeah, there's definitely some work to do in this space, and I guess I just want to fly a flag for some resourcing from my colleagues to free up some of our comms in order to be able to do that better. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, are you going to seek or ask for comments, whakaaro, after this? I
think we have. This is,
so can
if
I
you've
just
got a comment,
yeah, is that okay?
Everyone else has given one. You
oh,
may
okay.
as well.
Yeah, no, I thought I'd ask. Thank you. Look, I just to acknowledge again, as I said, tautoko with Councillor Ferry. There's only two things I need to add. One is that with the seniors panel, I have updated them on Own Your Own Home. And it was important because I got asked to do that. So the latest that I got from Eke Pānuku, I advised the seniors panel, and I just wanted to let everybody here around there know. Also, Phil, I just want to acknowledge you and your team, and in particular Lisa, in regards to the profile of the advisory boards, getting that out, whether it be in our Auckland, bless you, or even from you as CEO. So those are the only two comments. Kia ora.
Well done, thank you. I've got three left. Councillors Bartley, Leone and Newman, in that order, please.
Thank you. First of all, I want to acknowledge the advisory panels. Thank you very much for being the face of Auckland, of Tamaki Makaurau, and keeping us real as well as the elected representatives. I really take on board what you said, Sanat, about not looking at Auckland as a box of problems, which quite often, happens. So I appreciate that. If I could give any advice, it would be, or actually it's not really advice because you guys are coming strong, that you are not a token tick box for policy consultation or council agendas, and really appreciate that. Make it your own and speak your truth and your voices, and really appreciate seeing that. I acknowledge Councillor Ferry for looking after the taonga of the advisory panels and all the liaison councillors, because it's an important role. And also acknowledge Malo Saumanu, Loa Whiunga Saumanu, thank you for the acknowledgement. I wanted to just give some update or some comment about the Building Act, because I'm hearing the disability panel talk about universal access, and when I was the liaison councillor, I thought, why is it taking 7 years to get advocacy around universal design? And boy, did I eat my words, because we met with the ministers, the relevant ministers. We had so much work council officers did, Phil Reid, Elise Copeland, Jeff Farrinson, around how we could change the Building Act. I thought it would be as simple as changing section 118 to say that not only commercial buildings be accessible, but residential. And it is not an easy task at all. So the advocacy was done previous term, but I hear the call that the advocacy happened again, and so maybe we try again with this new government. But yeah, there were so many arguments about how, universal design should happen. Everybody is going to experience being immobile at one stage in their lives. And so the buildings that we live in should be able to cater to that, not just the buildings that we work in. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not just the actual code, it's the implementation thereof that the problem is, that Barry and I found. Councillor Leone.
Kia ora. No, mihi to all of the panels and the great work that you're doing. Just a couple of comments from me too was mihi to say manu as well. Thank you for the acknowledgement. The faux pas was coming, don't worry. Slowly but surely. Into the ethnic communities panel. I know that you raised the concern around representation on local boards, and obviously here as councillors, the lack of ethnic councillors and representation at this level. So are you suggesting that we run or provide some pūtea, some money resource towards having workshops out in the community like way in advance to try and help educate more of the ethnic community members to get involved? Because I know that there has been money allocated previously to do that. So I just wanted to get an idea, first of all, from that. Kia ora.
Short answer, yes.
Answer. Councillor Newman, please.
Thank you to the panel's members this morning. I actually want to ask a question of you, Chris, if I may. And it goes to the reflection that you gave around issues of safety. I mean, Gurdeep Singh is a constituent of mine. He's recovering after that very brutal attack in his jewellery store in South Auckland. I wondered if you could give some degree of elaboration, because when the attacks on those ethnic retailers take place, it is often reported in ethnic media. It's sometimes reported in other media, but it's reported in ethnic media, but there's a perception as to its coverage. But actually the coverage is much wider than just in New Zealand, isn't it? It goes all over the place.
And I wondered if you could give some reflection about when those ethnic retailers are attacked and it is reported in ethnic media, the level of readership that captures and how far does that go? How much attention is given when we don't address the issue of retail crime targeting those particular business owners, and what does that do for the perception about safety in our community?
Thank you, Councillor Newman. You're absolutely correct, especially with social media these days. You know, the incident with Gurdeep got shared, it went viral in TikTok and Facebook page across India and globally. And it does impact the reputation of New Zealand as a safe destination, the brand image, especially around export education, international education, because we are competing with other nations, and it is something we really need to control, especially in Auckland City. Auckland City is just losing its vibe, and a lot of people I know in South Auckland, they are not renewing their leases because the uncertainties around crime is just adding to a piling of insurance bills. We know young people don't want to work in frontline retail, so there's staffing issues, and it's just escalation of mental health issues on the family, and it's really sad. And you're right. We don't know the answer is, but we need to get on top of this together with the central government and other agencies, and community leaders also need to come out and speak about it. You know, if there are people from your community. I've been to many community crime forums, and we don't see Auckland Council represented. Oranga Tamariki is there, MB is there, but there is no one from Auckland Council, and these are very high-level community crime forums involving Andrew Costa, superintendents, etc. So I think perhaps at a council level, there's a lot of education needed in this area as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That brings us to a
Can I
close
just,
to that.
sorry, Wayne, I just want to add to that because...
Sorry, but
That's right. Basically, as disabled people, we rely very heavily on local businesses because often it's easier than getting in transport and going somewhere. So for us, it affects us very much because most of the businesses affected are in our community. And I think we need to come out more as a collective of community people and say it's not good enough for us either, that we support these guys because it's ridiculous what's happening and that they're not getting the support they need. And as a group of people, we really need them in our community where we can get the essentials like milk and bread and stuff like that these guys provide. So from the disability community, I want to support in every way possible this sort of thing from not happening.
I tautoko that. Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting and informative hour or two. I certainly am quite happy to move the recommendation. I'd like to,
Second.
The youth fellow who, thank you very much for saying that Auckland is not a box of problems. I think it's quite a good statement. We don't let it to be a box of problems. There is some good stuff. We live the city because we love it, despite the box of problems, and we want to put a lid on those. Thank you all for your inputs. It's been educational for all of us. We all of us can't represent every one single of those groups. And thanks to Councillor Ferry and Ms Wicks-Brown for the support. I encourage councillors to take a particular interest in one or all of those things. We can't all be young, old, disabled and ethnic at one time. But I'm following with the small business one as an interest, and Barry keeps me well informed if I wander off course and forget things in the disabled sector. So I'm going to move that we note the demographic advisory midterm update and agree that the report and attachments be circulated to local boards in Haukura for information. In terms of somebody raised the question of, I think it was Alf, about how we broadcast the information, I have encouraged members of the things to actually make speeches on behalf as a member of the Ethnic Community Board, or for the, I had Raji Singh speak about the issue that you face with the crime on Indian people, and he spoke as a member of the Small Business Association advisory panel. It gives a bit more impetus to what you say. You're quite welcome to do those sorts of things, and probably the best voices for the panels are the voices on the panels. So it was seconded by Councillor Turner, and Councillor Ferry, and all those in favour, please say aye. The contrary, carried. Thank you very much for that.